Oh God, we're back, and we're gonna be standing on the S keys because we are gonna be dueling, and while dueling, we'll be talking about the dueling. Now, obviously, all this shit is not live because it's old. It's from the rank challenge, and the reason we are even talking about this is because someone needs to make this video. Nobody fucking else is gonna do it, and also, I want the Mirage 2000, but I don't want to have to play France, so becoming a Warthunder CC might be the easiest way to get it. So, like and subscribe to the channel for, I don't know, flight simulator fucking stuff. So, anyways, I like dueling, or at least I like dueling about as much as I like the other game modes, which is to say, not the best dueler ever, and sometimes I don't always enjoy it. During the rankings challenge, I scratched, clawed, and fucking molded my way to 95th place. Barely got my super cool 109 F4 blue skin thing, which is a lot of fun to roam around in simulator with. So it does go without saying, there are people that are better at dueling than I am. However, when I did all of this, I used every single variation of controls mode that I could find. I used a HOTAS for some of the event, mouse and keyboard controls for the other, and a combination of keyboard and mouse joystick. And aside from that, also on the side, I do a fair bit of like pure simulator battles dueling with like an actual joystick and shit. So like at this point, I do more of that than I do RB. I don't like doing RB things right now anymore, but it puts me in a position to accurately explain what the issue with dueling and specifically with what is called SB controls. Now, there have already been a few conversations about sim controls, and for the most part, they weren't that bad. Zoltan Sultan put out a video about 4 months ago at this point that fairly accurately explains the issue. For a 5-minute video, it is plenty good enough. My only major complaint with that video is the way the issue was framed. Framing matters, and he framed it as if the usage of sim controls is prevalent in random ARB battles, where it simply isn't. Commentators came away from it thinking that anytime they got outturned in ARB, it was because of like those dastardly SB controls, or that there are some like super elite hands-on stick and throttle gamers roaming around in random game modes and just slaughtering everyone. That's all nonsense. There are no elite HOTAS gamers in RB, and not using mouse aim in that game mode is a huge hindrance. Also, as someone who had control switching mapped for the past 3 years, there have only been a very, very small handful of situations where switching the control modes was actually useful. It is such a niche use case in RB that there are basically no tutorials on how to use it or when to use them in a match. The juice simply just is not worth the squeeze. The other conversations I have seen have stemmed from forum posts and mainly from interacting with the SB community itself, and they like to frame it as if RB players are being mad that they are losing to people that aren't playing with quote-unquote training wheels. Yes, a lot of the sim community unironically believes stuff like this. Now, the place where the juice actually is worth the squeeze for sim controls is in 1v1 tournaments and ranking tournaments, and it completely ruins the entire premise of the 1 versus 1 scene. Let me explain. The whole premise of a 1 versus 1 competition is to see which pilot is the best at basically dogfighting. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into this when both players are actually using the same plane. There's a lot of give and take where one move leads into another, where one guy makes a mistake, the other guy can capitalize on it, and there's a whole flow to it, there's a whole idea behind it, there's a whole premise. And what the activation of SB controls does is it takes all of this push, this pull, and it takes all the stakes, it removes them for anyone that is not using them, because guess what? This guy that I'm fighting right now, you know what his mistake was? Fighting me because I have SB controls on. I can realistically win the fight at any point that I want to very easily just by turning flat with him, and because my turn rate will be better than his, I will eventually win. yes, I've added a degree of complexity to it by having the ability to switch controls. I have made the game mode a little bit more complex by doing this, but I have also simplified the win solution. And that's the part I think that a lot of people aren't realizing when people are complaining about SB controls. They're not complaining because the other guy is controlling the plane better. They are complaining because if you don't use them, then you lose. It also means that the skill set that you refine in 1 versus 1, i.e. using the realistic joystick controls to force a flat turn in rate and just maximize your rate, do not end up translating over to any of the other game modes. You're effectively playing in a sandbox that has its own special rules, and the people that end up watching this, they aren't going to like it. They aren't going to see any relevance to it, and it means that training for this is also not fun at all either. Like, if you just learn to duel the normal way with the normal control scheme, you can take that skill set and it will make you better at RB, or it will make you better at SB. Here's a perfect example of what sim controls dueling does, is it simplifies everything down into a way that's it's just not fun. It's not fun. It's not useful outside of I want to win and maximize my chance of winning a tournament. I'm fighting 2 different players. I put the games side by side. I initially had them lined up like sequentially, but it would just take too fucking long. It would be miserably boring. But the only thing we're going to do is we're going to do a flat turn, we're going to descend, we're going to get to the deck, and we're going to see who picked the slightly better AOA number and who's slightly better at going up, going down, and managing their energy state. And the thing is, like, at its best case scenario is we match each other while using SB, and then we end up in more or less a normal duel, doing the normal dueling stuff, but now we're just using a different control scheme. And the only reason we're using a different control scheme is because we've effectively held each other hostage, because if we don't use the control scheme, we will just lose to the other guy. He doesn't have to really do any inputs at that point. This is why nobody that is within the tournament community actually enjoys this. Even sim battles players don't like it when duels devolve to this. Like, you can go search their forums and find posts like this where they're also complaining about the use of mouse joystick and just forcing rate fights like this. And it turns everything into more or less some variation of this. This is not fun. This is the fucking Mozdok 500. We're just going to be doing laps until someone wins the race. Wow, isn't this exciting? Isn't this like the epitome of skill here? Is just flat turns for the first one that's on the left took 18 minutes, man. That was 18 minutes of flat turning that I cut out there. And the thing is, like, practicing this way doesn't make you good at SB either. The people that play SB also keep fighting these people because they try to execute the exact same kind of strategy of use the joystick, use WTRTI, micromanage rate, and then eventually win after a very long time of doing nothing but flat turns. And the thing is, the nice thing, at least in SB, is you can kind of fight against it because the spawn's a little bit further away, you get a little bit more speed, you can be a little bit more aggressive. You don't really have that option with the current RB spawn because it's set up to avoid people trying to force head-ons. And the thing is, these players that have perfected this strategy want to change the simulator battles tournament spawn to mimic the realistic battles spawn, so they can force the exact same thing onto, like, SB players. Now, the easiest solution to all of these problems is to disallow the ability to switch controls while in a tournament and to enable the force instructor option. Now, you can circumvent the instructor even with that turned on by going into full real controls and staying there, but it would at least add an obstacle to basically having an automatic I win button for around 60 to 70% of the players that you end up facing in RV tournaments. Anyways, that's my rant. Enjoy. Have fun.